Okay, this morning we have a special episode of the Comedy Community ACMM other title podcast. This is George Ferido, and he's the better half of the Buddy System. And if you don't know, the Buddy System it's a comedy production company that we both started and was gaining a little bit of ground. We started getting shows at like the Improv and shit, and then everything hit the fan. So we'll see what happens when everything goes back to whatever new normal is. But he is the other half of the Buddy System. He did a bunch of work that people don't ever notice or recognize. So it's always exciting to hear his side of things. So yeah, I'll keep this one short. George can speak for himself. This is George Ferido.
Welcome, fans and friends, to another episode of Not My Podcast. This is Aaron Chase's podcast, so I'm here to answer his questions. His first question about myself is, when did you start comedy and why? I guess that's two questions. I'll address the first question. I'll try and be as brief as possible because there's plenty of start dates for me because I'm a quitter. If anyone knows anything, deep down in my soul, I quit everything. So I officially wet my beak. I gave an attempt to do comedy in 2009. It was in a burrito shop. Oh, wow, I can't even speak. It was in a burrito shop called Iguanas in San Jose, and I bombed, obviously. It was a weird experience because I'd never really been to an open mic before. I didn't know what to expect. I knew that I was going to do terribly, that it didn't make any sense for me to think that it was going to go well. But I also knew that I just had to do it. Comedy isn't something that you can create on your own, at least stand-up comedy. It's not something you can keep on paper. You have to share that with other people. So I knew I had to do it. I did, and it sucked. I did so bad. I'm sure I ate my feelings that night. I took a break probably for, let's count the years. So that was 2009. I probably took a break until 2012. I would imagine 2011 was coming around. People were thinking the world was ending. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't even try comedy yet. I should probably get back to that. Knowing my dumbass in 2012. Let's see. So I'm probably 22 in 2012. Yeah, I'm dumb in 2012. So I'm sure what happened was I made a New Year's resolution to new year, new me, and I'm going to do comedy. And so I started going to Back to the Grind. I probably went to Back to the Grind in Riverside 5 times in 2012 and helped set up chairs and everything, donated to their little donation thing every time. And I actually got to do comedy 2 times. And that was rude. I didn't like that. I think 3 times in a row, actually, my last 3 times that I went, I didn't even get to go up. I stayed probably 2 hours. I watched everyone. I stayed in the room. I bought drinks, and I didn't get to go up. And that didn't seem fair, but I knew that the environment wasn't necessarily encouraging comedy to thrive there. So I needed to find a spot to really, really sink my teeth in and do comedy. So my official first debut at a comedy club was at an open mic at Flappers in Claremont, RIP. That was my home club. That was my first club. I met a lot of people that I'm still friends with there. And I still have the picture of when I went. It's on April 12th, 2012. I was so excited, so young and full of energy back then. And I think I probably hit it for a solid year. I was super poor, so I could only go twice a month. I could only afford to drive twice a month. And if I was lucky, I would go 4 times in a month, but I think I averaged about twice a month. So I went up less than 30 times in between 2012 and 2013. 2013, though, was a weird start of my life. I stopped doing comedy. I don't know why. I guess dumb me was in a place of self-discovery and wanted to try everything. So I took like a year and a half off. from 2013 till October 2014. Now, if you ask me about my real legit like run at comedy, I would say it didn't start until October of 2014, because that's when I decided, I was like, fuck it, I have a job. I have a good job. I can drive. I have money. It's not a problem. Let's fucking do this. So I started going 2, 3, 4 times a week, everywhere between flappers. I would walk across the parking lots where I'm at zero, at the junction. So I started hitting it hard in October 2014 and didn't stop until probably March of 2020. So my pre-corona run is October 2014 to March of 2020. So just shy of 6 years, I would say, which is probably the longest I've spent doing anything in a row. Like, I didn't quit. I didn't really take any time off. I had a good time during those 6 years, but also in the last 4 months, I'm sure I lost all of the skills that I somehow picked up over the course of half a decade. So I'm starting fresh again when everything comes back, but I'm excited. I've gotten to the point where I don't really have a plan of like success for my comedy. I don't really have a future plan for my comedy, because what really speaks to my soul is just getting better and writing jokes. It's fucking fun. If you've never done it, you're missing out. And if you've never done it, I don't recommend it, because it's soul sucking. It can hurt it sometimes, and even now I feel like I'm chasing the dragon. You get the occasional uproarious laughter. You get a good set. The comedy gods will bless you with a few of those a year, and for the rest of the year, you're kind of chasing that high that, for me, I never really get. So, I guess this kind of leads me into my next question. Why did I start doing comedy? Not my next question. This is Aaron's next question. Thank you, Aaron, for question number 2. Why did I start comedy? It's because I was desperate. I was very lost right after I graduated high school. And up until that point in my life was a lot of the same motions. I wasn't good at anything. I wasn't particularly good at any sports. I wasn't particularly good in any classes. I was very mediocre in life in general, and I knew that. I was always jealous of the people in school that I went to school with who had special skills. I had a friend who was really good with a yo-yo. I had friends that were really good at dancing, really good at sports. I was really good at nothing. The only thing I was good at that I kind of knew was just being funny, and that was just normal to me, because that's just how I am. This sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but it's like, no, I just knew I could rely on my sense of humor to get me in and out of most situations. And so I did. As such, I didn't develop any real skills in high school. I learned how to cut class. I learned how to drive. I guess that's a skill you pick up. You kind of have to. But I wasn't good at anything except being funny. And so when I graduated high school, I was very lost. And I knew that I had to make funny work somehow. I didn't know what to do, how to do it. I knew that there was like sketch shows. I used to watch stand-up comedy growing up, but I never connected myself to them. I never saw that and went, oh, I could do that. Like, no way, because I'm part Asian. It's that whole that saying of like, the nail that sticks out gets nailed down. It's a very lay low, don't get noticed, kind of do your job and move on. So I never really saw myself on stage talking to people until I met someone with similar aspirations into, entertainment in general, and they suggested that I try stand-up comedy, that I may have the chops for it. And that was, I guess, the first time the idea even got incepted into my brain. So that's probably 2008 when that idea came about, and it kind of just sat in my brain and spread its roots through my brain for the next year or so before I was like, all right, I need to get out of here and I need to go to like California and do comedy. because I felt like I was desperate. I felt like I had no other options. Like some people are like, oh, I'm going to do baseball after school, or I have a biology scholarship or whatever. I had nothing. I had zero plans. I was flying by the seat of my pants, and all I knew was that I can make people laugh, and I hope this fucking works out. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it's going to. Okay, I should reiterate. A lot of the time, it doesn't feel like it's going to work out because I bomb regularly. So to kind of pick my worst one, I can pick, like, there's 4 that really have stuck with me and made me learn a lot about who I am and how willing I am to take my own life. But I guess one's fun because it's in an actual comedy club. One of my worst bomb stories where I didn't contemplate quitting comedy, but it was one of those bombs where I couldn't even convince myself that I was still funny. You know, sometimes you drive back home after a bad set and you start rationalizing. You're like, it was a tough crowd. It was all comics. It was late. This was one of those bombs that I was embarrassed to talk to myself. So it was rough. It was at the Ice House in Pasadena, the legendary Ice House in Pasadena, California, on stage 2. Stage 2 is a small, it's not small though. It's a really good sized comedy club. At least it was pre-corona. And they had an open mic there on Wednesdays. I went to, this was probably my second time at the Ice House. My first time I did okay. But this next, I was hot. I was on fire when I was, I remember this. I went in so hot-headed. I was so confident that I was going to do so well. And I ended up sitting for probably 2.5 hours. And then I went up third to last at maybe 1:30 in the morning. Because, I mean, it's the Ice House. You're not going to leave. I didn't. I had nothing better to do. And I went up to, I think there was probably 8 people in there, including the sound guy and the host. And it's a room that can adequately seat probably 100 people. And I did my jokes. And even then, at that point, I was like, oh, I'll get a chuckle. I'll get some kind of feedback to make myself feel good. And so I told my first one, and big fucking 0. A big whiff. Like, whew, okay. It's one of those, like, you take it in the gut and you feel the wind get sucked out of yourself and the room. Quick gear change. So I was like, all right, this next one, this is a safe joke. I know this is gonna hit. I threw it out there. Whew, bigger miss. In fact, I think one person left. And when 1 out of 6 people leave, that shit hurts. And so for the next probably 4 minutes and 50 seconds, I just told my jokes in total silence. Like, not even a cough or a pity chuckle, nothing. Just, there would have been more noise in that room if it was empty. It was so painful. It was the longest 5 minutes that I had there probably ever. I bombed again maybe a year after that, but it didn't stick as hard because there was other things that was going on. But this bomb that I'm talking about was completely my fault. I was overconfident. I didn't deliver my jokes. I really relied on them instead of making it a performance. Like, I learned a lot, but at what cost? I definitely, if I had 9 lives and I was a cat, that took 2 of them. It hurt like so bad. It hurts to think about. So I'm glad I got it out and shared it with you strangers. Welcome to my crazy world. That was my craziest bomb. But real talk, for me, I bomb almost every time I go up. Because we go up with a plan. You go up with a joke and you know where you want the laugh to go. And more often than not, as a comic, you're right. It's supposed to go there, but when it doesn't, I think that's a failure on our part as comedians. And that counts as a bomb. That, you know, there was an expectation for yourself and you didn't meet that expectation. So that's a 0. You don't get a point for that. You get a bomb. And that's kind of how I treat all my sets. So I bomb regularly. I bomb hard, probably once a set, there's probably a joke that I'm like, oh, this is going to go great. And then I say it, and then it's just, I want to curl into my shell and blow my brains out so no one has to clean up my body. So that's just how comedy is. I love it. It's fleeting, and that's what makes it beautiful. I guess thank you for listening to my rant. I hope it wasn't too ranty. I hope you didn't run your car off the road or anything. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Aaron Chase, for having me. Catch me on all social media. I am at the George F. One word. There's no underscores. TheGeorgef. And you'll find me there. Yeah, thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.